Imagine spending over $100 billion on a single transportation project, not to build an airport, not to construct a new city, but to create a railway line where trains travel so fast they can outrun commercial airplanes on certain routes. It sounds like one of the greatest investments ever made, or one of the most expensive mistakes in history. Depending on who you ask, it's been called both. Around the world, governments continue pouring astonishing amounts of money into high-speed rail. Japan pioneered it. China has built the largest network on Earth. Europe keeps expanding its routes, and countries across the globe dream of joining the club. But here's the strange part. Many of these projects take decades to complete, cost far more than originally planned, and may not recover their construction costs for generations. So why does anyone keep building them? Because high-speed rail isn't really about trains. It's about reshaping entire economies. When most people think about transportation, they imagine moving people from point A to point B. Governments think much bigger. They see transportation as something that can completely transform where people live, where businesses invest, and how entire regions grow. A city connected by high-speed rail suddenly becomes much closer than it appears on a map. A journey that once took 4 hours can shrink to just 90 minutes. For businesses, that changes everything. Employees can commute farther. Companies gain access to larger talent pools. Tourism increases. Universities attract more students. Property values often rise around stations. Entire districts that were once overlooked suddenly become prime real estate. The railway isn't just moving passengers. It's moving economic activity. That's why governments are often willing to spend unbelievable sums before seeing any financial return. But building one of these networks is unlike almost any other construction project. Ordinary railways can follow existing landscapes. High-speed rail can't. When trains travel at more than 300 kilometers per hour, even small curves become dangerous. The tracks must remain incredibly straight and incredibly smooth. That means engineers can't simply go around mountains, rivers, or cities. They often have to go directly through them. Suddenly, the project requires massive tunnels stretching for dozens of kilometers. Gigantic bridges crossing valleys. Elevated tracks over highways. Complex earthquake-resistant engineering. Every obstacle adds billions to the final bill. In some countries, tunnels alone account for a huge portion of construction costs. Digging through mountains is slow, dangerous, and incredibly expensive. And that's before a single train has even started operating. Land creates another enormous challenge. A railway hundreds of kilometers long crosses thousands of private properties. Governments must purchase that land, compensate owners, relocate communities, and resolve years of legal disputes. In densely populated regions, acquiring the land can cost almost as much as building the railway itself. Then comes the infrastructure most passengers never notice. Communication networks, security systems, emergency access roads. Unlike conventional rail, high-speed systems require incredibly advanced technology to keep trains operating safely at extreme speeds. A tiny fault that might be insignificant on an ordinary railway becomes unacceptable when trains are traveling faster than 300 kilometers per hour. Safety standards become extraordinarily strict. That also means maintenance never stops. Tracks are inspected constantly. If you're enjoying this video so far, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us create more content like this. Sensors monitor vibrations. Specialized vehicles scan rails for microscopic defects invisible to the human eye. Teams work overnight so passengers never notice the thousands of inspections happening behind the scenes. Keeping trains fast is surprisingly difficult. Keeping them safe is even harder. Then comes perhaps the biggest financial gamble of all: demand. A high-speed railway only works if millions of people actually use it. Building one between two small towns makes little economic sense. The routes need dense populations, strong business travel, reliable tourism, and enough passengers willing to pay for speed instead of cheaper alternatives. If demand is lower than expected, the economics collapse quickly. The infrastructure still needs maintenance. Employees still need salaries. Electricity still powers the network. Debt repayments continue, whether trains are full or half empty. That's why forecasting future demand becomes one of the most important and controversial parts of every project. Governments often make predictions 20 or even 30 years into the future. They try to estimate population growth, economic development, tourism, urban expansion, and changing travel habits. The problem? No one can predict the future perfectly. A recession, a population shift, remote work, or changing business travel patterns can completely alter the assumptions made decades earlier. And if those forecasts are wrong, taxpayers, not private investors, usually carry most of the financial burden. That's exactly why critics often call high-speed rail one of the biggest public spending gambles ever attempted. Yet despite the risks, more countries continue announcing new lines worth tens of billions of dollars. Because for many governments, the real return isn't measured only in ticket sales. It's measured in something far bigger. It's measured in economic transformation. When a high-speed rail line opens, the benefits often spread far beyond the passengers buying tickets. Businesses gain faster access to customers, companies can expand into new cities, tourism increases, and workers suddenly have access to jobs that were once too far away. Entire regions become more connected, encouraging investment that may never have happened otherwise. This is why governments often view high-speed rail as national infrastructure rather than a traditional business. Profit isn't always the main objective. Long-term economic growth is. There's also another major advantage: competition. On routes between 200 and 800 kilometers, high-speed trains can often compete directly with airplanes. While flights may be faster in the air, passengers must also travel to the airport, pass through security, wait at the gate, board the aircraft, and collect luggage after landing. High-speed rail stations are usually located in city centers, allowing travelers to walk in just minutes before departure and arrive directly in the heart of another city. For many journeys, the total travel time becomes surprisingly competitive. Environmental concerns have also made these projects even more attractive. Electric trains generally produce far fewer carbon emissions per passenger than airplanes or cars, especially in countries powered by cleaner energy sources. As governments push toward climate goals, investing in rail becomes both an economic and environmental decision. Of course, not every project succeeds. Some lines attract fewer passengers than expected. Others experience years of delays and massive budget overruns that double, or even triple, the original estimates. These failures fuel criticism that governments are gambling with public money. Supporters, however, argue that the biggest returns may not appear for decades. Just as highways, ports, and airports transformed economies over generations, high-speed rail can reshape how an entire country grows. In the end, that's what makes high-speed rail such a fascinating investment. It's one of the few projects where success isn't judged only by profit. It's judged by whether it changes the future of a nation. That's why governments continue approving projects worth tens, even hundreds, of billions of dollars despite the enormous risks involved. Because if they're right, the railway won't simply move people faster. It will move businesses, investment, talent, and economic opportunity across an entire country. And if they're wrong, they'll be left with one of the most expensive transportation mistakes ever built. History has already shown both outcomes. Japan's Shinkansen became a global success, transforming regional travel and setting new standards for speed, safety, and reliability. China's high-speed rail network, now the largest in the world, has connected hundreds of cities and dramatically reduced travel times for millions of people. These projects demonstrate how rail can reshape economic activity when population density and demand are strong enough. But other countries have struggled with delays, political disagreements, rising construction costs, and lower than expected passenger numbers. In those cases, taxpayers often question whether the enormous investment could have been spent on schools, hospitals, or other public services instead. That's what makes every new high-speed rail proposal so controversial. Supporters see an investment that will benefit future generations. Critics see a financial gamble with no guarantee of success. The truth lies somewhere in between. High-speed rail is neither a guaranteed gold mine nor an automatic waste of money. Its success depends on careful planning, realistic demand forecasts, disciplined construction, and decades of consistent economic growth. In the end, the tracks themselves are only part of the story. The real investment is confidence in a country's future. Every kilometer of rail represents a belief that more people will travel, more businesses will expand, and more cities will grow together over the coming decades. And that's why the world's fastest trains aren't just engineering marvels. They're some of the biggest long-term economic bets humanity has ever made. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next video. Let us know your thoughts or questions in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Subscribe for more economic deep dives on industries, technologies, and global trends. New videos are coming soon, so stay tuned.